Alright, now that we have impregnated the fibers of the boots with our microcrystalline wax, or paraffin wax, or beeswax, or whatever you decide to use. In my case, I used some microcrystalline wax, what I believe to be microcrystalline wax. Either that or it's paraffin. What we're going to do is we're going to take our blowtorch here, and we're going to turn it down to the lowest setting that you can go without turning it off. So for me, it's right about there. Alright, and we're going to just take it, and you'll see instantly that it melts the wax into our boots. And so what we want to do is we want to go all around the boots and just melt the wax gently in. You want to be careful not to burn the boot. Just want to heat up the fibers. And another thing this does is it heats up the fibers, which gets it ready for our next step, which is coating them with our oil, our non-drying oil. In my case, I'm using coconut oil because it's all I got, and I've used it before in that other pair of boots you saw, and it worked just fine. In fact, I think it worked better than linseed oil, which you could use. I think that would dry out this material. I think coconut oil, I think it works better, in my opinion. But you could try really any oil. I think really any oil will work, just as long as it's not going to go rancid. Like, you don't want to use butter. I think olive oil might work, but avocado maybe. You'd have to do your own research and make sure you cover all your bases before you start slapping stuff all over your boots. But I have tried and tested the coconut oil and microcrystalline wax from tea candles, and it seems to do the trick just fine. As you can see, as soon as you hit it with the torch, it melts right in. And so it's being soaked up by those fibers. And when we go to apply the oil in our next step, we're going to be rubbing it on with either paper towel or a cloth towel, whatever you have, and that'll help get this wax deeper into the fibers. Oh, that's really nice. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish these up here, and then we'll move it on to the next step. Okay, so here are our boots after we've impregnated the fibers with our wax and melted it in using either a blowtorch, could also use a lighter, or even I think a blow dryer on really hot heat, really like full strength. That might work. You could probably also bake them at a low temperature, but I'd be careful with that. But as you can see, all that wax melted in. You can't see any of it on the surface of the boot anymore. It leaves a nice finish. I think it makes it look nice. Do that. I got a little singe in some places, but all right. Now that we're done with our first step, we're going to oil the fibers of the boots with our extra virgin coconut oil, and I've gone ahead and melted some in a microwave safe dish. You can see that there. It's nice and liquidy. And what you're going to do is you're going to take some paper towel like this. You want to take your paper towel and kind of bunch it up into a little dabbing brush like that. That'll do. The tighter the better. And you're simply going to take your coconut oil, dab your brush in there, and then begin to gently dab it into the fibers along the seams. And be as liberal as you want to go with it. Don't soak them. You don't want to soak them, because if you soak them, you'll be having a bad day when you go to put your foot in them. You know, just I would say liberally coat the boot along the seam, along all the seams and everywhere. You'll see it start to turn dark as you apply the oil. That's totally fine. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this to the boots in time-lapse mode so you guys can see the process. Alright, so now that we have impregnated the fibers of the boots with the wax, and we have applied our oil to the boots, once again, making sure to get right at the base of the tongue. You don't have to get the full tongue, however, I recommend it. I did apply a little bit along the tongue itself. I put a heavy amount down here at the base of the tongue. That's where usually you'd get the most water into your boots, is around this area, or around the seams of the sole if the fibers there have been compromised. So you want to make sure to really dose up. You really want to make sure to dose up the areas along the seam and any areas where water could get in. Any of the seams, really. You want to heavily dose up along those points. So, next step is going to be to hit it with your torch or your blow dryer, or whatever heat source you have. You're going to hit it again. Just go over it lightly. I'll do that now, and then we'll go on to the final step. Alright, so when you're hitting it with the blowtorch for this second time, just going to want to do it really lightly. You'll see the oil start to seep in. If you're seeing smoke come off, it's too hot. You want to back off a little bit. You just want to melt any remaining wax that's on the surface of the boots. Make sure this will allow the oil to seep into the fibers and kind of even out some of those light and dark spots that you see. So then after this, what we're going to do is we're going to take a cloth, and you're just going to give your boots a nice wipe down to make sure that everything is evenly distributed, and to clean it up, just to make it look nice and uniform. So one thing I should mention is that you can do this. These are suede boots, or I don't know if this is a real suede or a fake suede. This is simply a $20 pair of boots you can buy at Walmart, and I used to buy these, and I'd be going through them like socks. Every month I'd be buying a different pair of boots because of, just the amount of wear and tear that were going into them. I'd be wearing them out so quickly. And so I saw a tutorial done by another gentleman. I'll try to link to him below in the description if I can find the video. He does a tutorial where he shows you how to make tin pants, which is basically the same process. You're basically imbuing the fibers of the pants with wax and oil, and they call them tin pants. And so I decided to try to do it with my boots. I hadn't seen any tutorials of anybody doing this similar process to their boots, but basically it makes them water resistant. I would say almost waterproof. It takes any material, makes it water resistant, waterproof. It keeps the water out of the fibers along the seams, which will allow your boots to live longer. Keeps the fibers, impregnated with that oil. Keeps them, flexible, and keeps the water out so that dry rot doesn't occur, which is what causes your boots to fall apart at the seams. Is usually dry rot. Alright, well, I'm rambling, so I'm going to finish up torching these boots, then we'll get on to the next step, which will be cleaning them up. Alright, so now that we've hit them with the torch, you're going to want to go over them with a, you could use a brush, or I'd recommend a rag, nice cotton rag or something. We used the paper towel to apply the oil, but for cleaning them up in the end, the best thing you can use is just a nice cotton rag. An old t-shirt, an old sock, anything really would work. But I recommend something other than paper towel. Paper towel is just going to fall apart. You want to really rub the surface as much as you can. Get any of the leftover wax and stuff that's sitting on the surface off. And as you rub it, you're creating friction. You're heating up any of that remaining wax and oil, and it's going to allow it to seep into the fibers, creating a really nice finish. I think this looks better than how they do when they come out of the box. This looks like a little bit more of an authentic leather boot, but also it keeps the water out. It extends the life of your boots. Even helps with, turn away punctures and tears and stuff, because when the fibers are imbued with that oil, they're nice and flexible. Their tensile strength is increased, which allows them to, deflect. I think the point the one guy made in the video about the tin pants was for thorns. It helps repel thorns. Alrighty, so I'm going to clean these up, and then we'll have one final look at them, and I'm going to do a little slow motion. I'm going to attempt to do a little slow motion water droplet test so you guys can see how the water simply will roll right off. It doesn't soak right into this material. I should have had another pair dry, or done one boot dry and then the other one, so I could do a side-by-side test. But I think if you did this yourself at home, you could do a side-by-side test, and you'll see that the one imbued with wax and the one impregnated with wax and oil will hold up against water way better than the one that's not been treated. Alrighty, so I'm going to get it to it. I'm going to clean up the rest of this, and we'll get on to that final step. So I have here a dirty old sock that I found in the bottom of my closet, and this will work just about fine. You're just going to basically take the boot, take the sock, and just rub gently but quickly, because you want to generate some friction. And you're just going to basically polish the boot. You're working any of the remaining material off the surface, or with the friction heating it up and moving it into the surface. Just going to clean it up, make it look nice and uniform, make it look nice and clean. Alright, so I'm going to clean these up, and then we'll get a final shot of them all cleaned up, and I'll do that water test. Alright guys, so here they are once we have finished cleaning them up. They're not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's practical, and it will keep your boots water-free and help extend their lifetime a little bit. We're going to go ahead here, and we're going to get the camera set up for a slow motion shot, and I'm going to pour some water over them in slow motion so you guys can see how the water beads up and rolls off of the boots instead of soaking into the fibers.